friends. Welcome to Comics Odyssey. Today with another viewer question. This one I've had for a few days and had to think about it. The question is, should classic comics be judged differently than modern ones? And I couldn't decide if yes or no, and it kind of ended up being yes and no. So let me explain. We're going to get into it. I think ultimately the medium is the medium, no matter what year it was made. So if you're looking at a comic made in 1938 versus a comic that's made in 2018, it's still the medium. So the mechanisms, the vocabulary of the medium are going to be value neutral. So yes, they should be judged the same way, or rather the question was no, they should be judged differently, or yes, they should be judged differently. However, the content of the medium has attached to it all of the context around which it was written. So it really applies to any work from any era, book, film, what have you, artwork. I think it's a mistake to be looking at those works and judging them, of course, through the lens of your values that are influenced by your current point in history. Because those people didn't have those same values. Like those values, there's trends that come and go, right? And some things don't last and some things last. So that's a hint as to what you should be really looking for, I think, when you're looking for, truly meaningful works of art. Hopefully you find the stuff that has transcendent value. That's not just that's not just valuable according to the whims of the time. Whatever lasts, that's the gold, right? So I remember reading the Odyssey and being interested in that, like Homer's Odyssey, the ancient Greek novel-length poem, because apparently it's kind of like the invention of the novel in a way. I guess that's what some people say. So I was interested in that, and I read it, and there's some beautiful passages, interesting language, and it's got some interesting action, and especially I was interested in the language and the translation and how close it was to the original language and all that. And I looked online for, I guess, reviews, analysis of the Odyssey. And the top hit, I think, was on YouTube or something, was a review of the Odyssey, and I started listening to it. And it was critical, negatively critical of the Odyssey, because it was not a feminist text. So, I only watched to a certain point, but I found it odd that you would judge the Odyssey based on the feminist lens. It's an interesting thought experiment, maybe for, I don't know, like a college course or something, but the ancient Greeks gave us so much, but they weren't feminists, and feminism wasn't a thing. Feminism comes from, it's a modern It's from modernity, right? So to say that the Odyssey is bad because it doesn't have these values that weren't in vogue at the time is a bit of an odd thing, and to ignore the literary content and all this other interesting stuff that's in it seems kind of odd, right? Same like so you got to be careful about looking at looking at artwork always through your lens, right? Whether you're a libertarian or a Christian or whatever it is you are, everything being judged according to your perspective. You know, if you're a Christian and you're reading the Odyssey, well, you know, Homer wasn't a Christian, and it wasn't a Christian world that it comes from. So, you know, you can look at this and not and believe that it's got the wrong morals or something, and still appreciate the gift, the literary gift that you're given by your ancestors. All right, you can't be looking at every comic book and saying it's bad because it's not libertarian enough or it's not whatever enough, right? So there's a balance between it. Like I have comic books here that are written by people whose morals, I'm sure, are not mine, and who I believe are wrong in their thinking or whatever. But the craft, the actual book, is undeniably valuable to me from what I can learn from it. So there's, I don't know, I hope that I'm making sense. This is kind of my perspective on it. I think you can have your moral values, you can have your ideology, your perspective, without throwing under the bus everything that you deem to be outside of it, right? And I think that's maturity. You know, learning to get along even though we're not the same people. And Comics Odyssey is more oriented towards what value can we find in each other rather than what moral failing we can find in each other, right? I do a podcast with my co-host James and some guests, and we've talked off air about various things like this, you know, that aren't necessarily specifically comic books. And we've discovered that we're not in agreement on everything. And thank God for that, because, you know, otherwise we'd just be the same thing. And that doesn't seem right. It seems like, you know, we do. Comics Odyssey is not a cult where we all must think the same thing, right? So, and we can learn from each other this way. We can have an exchange of ideas. But that doesn't mean that, you know, when we're looking at these comics that we must necessarily, you know, you've watched several episodes of Comics Odyssey, and, you know, you haven't seen us judge a comic for being a moral failure, or if we did, we don't do that very much. So Comics Odyssey is about pointing upwards, trying to find what's good, elevating it, and moving past maybe what we deem to be, you know, unsavory or a moral failing. We can build on what we have in common with each other that's good, build on our love of good artwork, and that's more the meaning of Comics Odyssey, and how I think we should be looking at works from the past. Go find what's good, and accept that there will be things out there that are not good, and transcend all of that. Move towards the higher place. Hopefully that makes sense and that's helpful and that answers your question. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please like and subscribe and share. And take care. See you in the next one. God bless.